Athletor Podcast back again. Joey Ghione, how you doing, bud? How's everything going?
I'm good. It's nice to reconnect with you, man. It's weird how the wrestling world works, you know.
No, it's very small.
That's that too. But what I've realized is the people who truly love wrestling are always in it.
Yeah.
And wrestling kind of weeds itself out, like
for better or for worse. If I'm gonna be honest about it, Joey.
Well, that's another conversation for a different time. So.
For sure. Okay, so we, like you said, we did reconnect, and we reconnected at Fargo a little bit. We kind of went back and forth a little bit on Instagram before that, but we did reconnect in Fargo. You got some stuff that you're doing, and before we even get to what you're doing in Nevada, let's find out how you got there. So you and I know each other since you were a baby in New Jersey in Brick. And how did you get from New Jersey wrestling to out in Nevada?
Well, it wasn't really intentional to do any wrestling out here. After my college career ended, I was pretty bitter at the sport. There was a time where I was not happy with anything wrestling related. I didn't want to be involved at all with anything with wrestling. I coached college for a year after my senior year, and I couldn't. I enjoyed it because I was coaching my friends, but I couldn't like enjoy the wrestling part. So I left New Jersey because I just wanted to get a fresh start. I was young, wanted to see something new for a couple of years, and my aunt is she owns a couple of businesses out here. She owns a Pilates studio, or a bunch of them, and one of her clients is a principal, and I went to school to be a teacher. So she's like, hey, you know, one of my friends is hiring. So I did an interview in the car, and I had my two friends in the back, and we were on our way to lifeguard. Yeah, so I thought it was, you know, she told me it was it would be 9 o'clock, like, but it was 9 o'clock for them. So I'm driving like back.
Yes, because time zones are tricky.
Yeah, so I'm driving back from lunch, getting ready. I got, you know, the zinc on my face and all that stuff. And I get this phone call. I'm like, oh, you guys need to be quiet for a sec. Like I'm trying to. And then an hour later on my break, I got a text saying I got the job, and I just moved. I moved 17 days later, 17 days later. It was like, I just called my mom.
Like that? Yeah,
I called my mom, and I was like, hey, I need to get out of here. Like, I just want to do something for a year. And then I called my girlfriend at the time. I was like, I'm leaving. And I told her I had an interview, but I didn't tell her like where it was or anything like that. So, I was like, yeah, I need to go. So that's how I ended up here.
First of all, I love that. I did the same thing, only I didn't have a job where I was going. I was just like, my dad's like, where are you going? I'm like, that way. I don't know. All right, let's talk about the bitterness, right?
Yeah.
Where did that come from, do you think? Like, because it's so common. It's so freaking common, dude, especially right after college. Like, dude, I can tell you right now, there's been a 24-month period in my life where I wasn't on a wrestling mat consistently, and it was right after college. I hated this. No, I don't want to say I hated the sport. Yeah, bitter is probably the best way to put it, I think. But where did your bitterness come from?
There's a lot of things. Just the way my career went, like, I think it stems back from high school. I was always freaking hurt. I was always hurt. Like, had to default out of my junior and senior year in Jersey States, which is like, you know, the mecca of wrestling back east. At least when you grow up in New Jersey, the only thing you think about is a Jersey State title. And the one year I was a 2 seed. I break my collarbone, like first match. That sucked, you know. Senior year, I placed that Super 32 right before, and then the first match of the season, I broke my elbow. I tore my UCL, and it was just turned into this like whole thing. So I didn't get like the opportunities I wanted in high school. So I was like, all right, maybe in college, you know, I'll get even with myself. So I put in a lot of work. I trained more than your average kid. And I did so in a different way where I didn't just keep showing up to shore thing. Like I was actively going to camps. I remember when we went to like Fretwell's, like way back in the day. And I was like on the road, I would give up like a month of my summer just for camps, like camp after camp after camp. And I'm like trying to get better, just trying to,
do anything to get better.
Anything. And I'm just not seeing it, like I'm just getting hurt and like cutting too much weight and this, that, and the other. And it's just not doing well. So I go to Lockhaven, tried going to Rutgers and didn't get in because I thought wrestling would get me in anywhere I wanted to. Little did I know you needed somewhat of a good GPA. So Pollard called me. He's like, I can't get you in. So I go to Lockhaven. Lockhaven gave me money to go there. They gave me an academic scholarship. So I
filled out my application in crayon. It's cool.
Yeah, right. And they're like, hey, we'll take you. You're smart, man. So I went to Lockhaven. I didn't fit in there. I think Scott Moore does a great job with his program. He gave me an opportunity to do what I love on the highest level. But I did not fit in with that program. And that's okay. Like part of success in college is fitting into the right system and to the right program and to the right coaching staff and to all this stuff. And I didn't fit in. So I quit. I was the starting 33 pounder my junior year. I'd never redshirted. And I quit in December. I was cutting close to 30 pounds to make 33. Jesus. And there was a conversation that had happened and, I thought that was going to be the direction I had to go. And I did it because I wanted to succeed. And I lost my mind. I literally lost touch of reality when I was making 33, cutting. There's, I can go into so many instances where I just lost myself and then I quit. And then now wrestling was my identity for my whole life. And now I don't have it. And now I'm stuck in a Jersey boy stuck in Lockhaven, Pennsylvania, doing nothing. And I could care less.
For scope, Joel, it is a one horse town.
Yes.
If Lockhaven, PA is, man, I don't even know what to how to explain it to somebody from the West Coast. It is rural in PA is a different kind of rural. We'll leave it there. How about that?
It's like driving down to Fresno, one of those towns that you get off at. That's one of them. I don't even know what the towns are called. Pick one on the way to Fresno. That's it.
Right.
So the only thing to do when you're not wrestling is to go to class and do things that you're probably not supposed to be doing. And I got really caught up in that. And to the point where I needed to get out, where I was my life is not heading down a path that I feel comfortable with. And my parents were concerned. And my brothers were concerned and everyone was concerned. And I was even concerned. I was like, damn, this is bad. Mind you, there was 9 other kids that year that quit. So we had a little militia just running around.
Right.
Trying to find stuff to do.
Yeah.
And
idle hands, dude. You give wrestlers who have never had a winter off in their lives. In their lives. Think about that. I can remember the first Thanksgiving I had after I stopped competing.
Yeah.
And it was different. I went hard. I probably gained 30, so it's just people don't understand that when you, you said, you take that away. I got to fill that hole with something. Probably going to be booze.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
You're in Lockhaven, Pennsylvania. There's nothing to do in the winter.
Right.
You can't even do anything in the summer, really.
Yeah.
So besides wrestle, and now I'm not wrestling, and I'm part of my madness was or my bitterness was at myself, where I'm how did I get to this point? How am I waking up on a Wednesday, not having anything on my agenda, skipping all my classes, and not wrestling? In Lockhaven, Pennsylvania, what am I doing? What am I doing? Well,
just having that type of reflective thought is probably half the battle of getting out of it, though. You understand that, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I was probably doing the same thing in Syracuse, New York, which is equally as shitty a town, if you ask me.
Right.
And you know, my shoulder's out. I'm done wrestling, right? And I'm just sitting there not going to class and not thinking anything about it.
Yeah.
And I took those poor habits and I brought them back down to Jersey when I was done with school. Right. So yeah, having those thoughts though is way important.
Yeah. So then I like had like this thought in my head, where I was like, I think I need to get back on the mat, just by seeing where my life was going at that point. Like, just taking wrestling away was like, I was going down like the wrong path very, very, very fast. And I had this moment where it's like, I either need to find help because obviously something up here is not okay, or I need to get back on the mat because that's just going to be my therapy. And I stuck with, you know, the thing I knew more than the thing I didn't know. So I called my mom. It might have been my dad. It might have been both of them at the same time, because they wanted to talk to me at the same time. Because every time I talked to them, it turned into like this intervention, making sure I was okay. And it had been known that I was leaving Lockhaven anyway. Like, I was going to be gone. And I was like, hey, I need to get back on the mat. Like, my life's not okay. Like, finally, we've been waiting for this, you know, thank God. So I get back on. So we start looking at schools, but Lockhaven at the time had a little bit of a reputation. The kids that quit had a little bit of a reputation. There's 9 of us, and they know that we're not doing the right things. Like, they know it's not
stupid.
hard.
Yeah, it's such a small town. It's impossible not to know.
Yeah, and now you have like people all over the state coming to watch Lockhaven matches, and they're going to the bar after, and I'm sitting there already, having been there, not going to the match, and you were the 33-pounder like a month ago. What are you doing here? You look like you're 170 pounds. Yeah, I am. How much I actually should. Like, yeah, I am. So
you are not far off, sir.
Yeah. So when I wanted to transfer, I could not get a school to buy into me for anything. Sure. For anything. So my dad made a phone call to his best friend. His name's Eric Walker. He's the head coach of Elizabethtown College. It's a small D3 school with 2,000 kids there. It's a private
Lancaster,
school.
PA.
Yeah, Lancaster. Great school. Hard school.
Smells like dog shit or cow shit, literally.
Yeah,
the
entire
town. Yeah.
Or Hershey.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Depending where the wind's going.
Yeah.
So I go there. It's a nice school.
It is.
The year that I went there, they were 2-13.
Yeah.
And this is my only option. So we sat down at this like visit, and he goes, it's me, my dad, and Coach Walker. And he goes, I know what you're up to. And if I find out that you're doing the same things here, you're out. You're like, I'm not giving you a second chance. You're like, I cannot be your babysitter. You're 22. Like, I'm done. So now I'm on this like last chance thing at a 2-13 school where the best kid within 2 weight classes of me went like 2-18. So I'm like, oh my. So I go to the school the next year because I needed out. And like was like, you know what? I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna do everything the right way. Like, I cut corners at Lockhaven all the time. I cut corners. I didn't cut corners in high school as much. I cut corners in what is it gonna look like if I actually try my best? So I had that like thing. And I tried my hardest for a year. Found like I love wrestling again. And like, but I didn't like actually love it. I think I was just so mad. I was so mad at what had happened, at myself, at the situation, everything, that I was just beating the shit out of these kids, these poor kids that anyone that came on the mat, I was dogging them, like half getting in fist fights at the end of each match. I'm like, and
there's the bitterness, right? There's the bitterness.
I'm so mad. They have coaches standing next to me in the weigh-in line because I'm talking shit to the kid that I'm about to wrestle. I'm so mad. I'm so mad.
Yeah.
So
Not great.
I did everything I needed to do. I finally bought in for the first time in my life. And I took 4th at NCAAs. I lost to a true freshman in the semifinals. And I remember getting off the mat, throwing my shoes out, throwing my headgear out, and I'm like, I am done. I am so done. That took every bit of me to leave my senior years, lose a whole year of credits, going to the brink of damn near like who knows what path.
Insanity. Let's just call it insanity. Right?
Insanity. And now I just took 4th. That's it. Like I'm standing on the podium. Like this is the worst day of my life. At NCAAs, my parents are like crying, happy. My coaches are like, "Oh my God, like you pulled yourself out of the gutter." And I'm like, "This is it. This is all I worked for."
Yeah.
Like I don't want this. So I finished my senior year. Coach Walker put me on the coaching staff because he knew if I had idle time, whatever would happen. And I just
ain't good.
Yeah, I just needed to finish off strong. But what was cool is I was still a student, so I was down as an actual assistant coach, not grad assistant.
Mm-hmm.
So that made my resume look a little bit better. And then I coached. I liked it because I liked coaching my friends, but I didn't like the wrestling part. And I left, and that's how I stopped. That was where it was crazy.
Yeah. Okay. For me, I'm gonna be selfish here for a second. I had a very similar experience. I didn't quite put it on the nose as much. I wasn't fist fighting, but I was definitely boozing too much. I was definitely in the bars way too much. When I started, it took someone else, my coach, my high school coach. I was back in Jersey. I was up to no good. I was hanging out at my buddy's bar, which means free drinks all night, and it just wasn't a good scene. But it took my high school coach like begging me to come to their whatever their version of like the holiday tournament is. Like I know Memorial has a huge the Mustang Classic or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But Edison had one that was much smaller. We called it the Ghetto Classic. But it was hood. It was super hood. But anyway, he just begged me to come. And then they had like the youth tournament the next day. He's like, well, just come to the youth tournament at least. Just, these kids, would love to see you. I said, okay, it's no problem. And that's how I got back into the sport. That was my gateway back into the sport. Was there something similar? Was there someone similar that kind of implored you?
Yeah. It was my little brother.
Really?
Yeah.
What did he have to say to you?
It was bad. My little brother was like 4th in the country. And he was like, I can't look up to you.
Oof. Oof.
Yeah.
How'd that feel?
Horrible.
How did he bring that up? How did that come up? How did that conversation even go?
I was drunk and we decided to do best of 3 takedowns in my basement because we had wrestling mats. And he took me down 3 times in like a minute. It was so bad. It was so bad. Yeah, I was so mad. I was so mad. And I was just like laying there. And he was like 4th in the country. And I went home to like during winter break to like help him out. And I like really went into the room like twice. I like couldn't get myself to go in the room. And he's like, how am I supposed to look up to you? That was bad. That was really bad.
And then, okay, so that is obviously setting a very different trajectory in your brain. But how does it start? Do you stop drinking completely?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, not really. So I don't think, okay, so I'll go on the record. I don't think I had a drinking problem because I could have stopped whenever I wanted to.
Right.
I didn't want to because I was bored.
Right.
There's a huge difference. Like I didn't need it to get through my everyday life. I needed it because I was bored. So I went home and that like hit me. I was like, damn, like that sucks. Still hits me to this day where I'm like, oh, it's like one of those things where like, it's like a knife in my heart, like sucks. And he just committed to go to UPenn at the time. So I went home and I just wanted like a totally like reset. I haven't been home for a Jersey summer in like ever. I never enjoyed a summer where I didn't have to wrestle.
Yeah.
You know, and like where I had just like time to do whatever I want. Like I didn't have any camps on the agenda. I had nothing on the agenda, so that was nice. So I went and I went home and I lifeguarded at the beach, and it was a bunch of wrestlers that like wrestled D3. Like 82% of the people or 80% of the kids that were on this lifeguarding staff, I've wrestled in college or wrestled in high school.
Did you work with a cone?
When I went home?
Yeah.
No, but I worked with him, but he didn't like work me out.
Okay.
Like,
right.
He was
That's
like,
what I meant as a lifeguard.
Yeah. And he so all these kids I wrestled at TC.
That's by the way, that's super inside Jersey. Dana Cohn, head coach at Brick Memorial at the time, ran a lifeguard stand at Jenks in Pleasant. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jenks, Point Pleasant.
Yeah, sorry. That's I realize now that Joel's sitting there like, who's a Cohn? What is Jenks? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So we're going a little inside baseball, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
2-time New Jersey Coach of the Year. He was my high school coach.
Yeah,
yeah. So I went home. I worked for them where I was around a bunch of wrestlers that like are living this lifestyle of being on the beach all day, but then, you know, are also getting workouts in. So there's this kid, Ryan Budzik. He won nationals the year after I All-American. So he's training and I see him training. He's the same weight class as me. And we're about to wrestle in D3 together. So I'm in my head, I'm like, dude, if I don't get back on the mat, this kid, I'm watching him go for a run on his lunch break. I got to go for a run on my lunch break. So that's where it started. Like, I snapped back into reality where I'm sitting next to this kid who I'm about to wrestle for 8 hours. Like, and we're talking about wrestling and we're talking about training. He's like, yeah, I'm getting into the room tonight. He went to Triumph. I'm going to Triumph tonight. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Shore Thing. And I had no intentions of doing that.
That was not now.
So now I'm like, okay, like I got to do it. Like I am sitting next to this kid I might be wrestling in a couple months. So that's how I started like training again, was because I couldn't like sit next to a kid I was about to wrestle. And he's training. I haven't been on the mat since January. It's June, July. So that freaked me out. So that's how it started happening. And then it slowly transitioned to once I got to E-Town, it was game on. It was game on. Like I was in the room every day doing something. I would drive to UPenn once or twice a week to practice with my brother, like at Penn RTC. And that was like 2 hours each way, hour and a half each way. So, and then I would go to Bucknell every once in a while because my workout partner at Lockhaven, he was the assistant coach, Dan F. He went to Bucknell, so I would drive up to Buck. That was 2 hours each way. So I was like just driving around trying to find workout partners. So that's how.
And then, so, all right. So you take a teaching job in Nevada.
Yeah.
And then a club falls in your lap.
Yeah, that was kind of wild.
Let's talk about it, man. How'd that happen?
So Fretwell hit me up, Cliff Fretwell, and he's like, hey, my buddy Josh Nolan is starting a club in Reno. I might have the text still where I'm pretty sure I said to him, I was like, hey, I'm good on coaching wrestling right now. I just need some time. And I'm sitting in.
He tried to get out.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, why is this happening to me? Like, it's just following me. So I had started doing jiu-jitsu a little bit just to do something. But I was living with my aunt in my aunt's guest room for the first like 4 or 5 months I was in Reno. And I was bored. I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anyone here. There was a lot of days where I just came home from work and just sat in the room. Like, and because they travel a bunch, like they have this like van, like that they like go places. So it might have been December by the time I like kind of gave in, where I texted Josh. And I was like, hey man, my name's Joey. I'm All-American. I would love to help you out. And he didn't believe that I was like an All-American or anything, because he apparently had a bunch of people who were like, yeah, I wrestled in college, and they showed up and they're like 500 pounds and didn't know how to tie wrestling shoes. Like, so I show up to Starbucks on my lunch break when I was teaching, and I'm looking for this dude, and he's sitting there with his like 1-year-old at the time on his lap with a Team USA hat. And I'm like, all right, that's the dude. So we sit down, we start chopping it up, and by the end of it, he's like, all right, come in next Tuesday. I was like, damn it. All right.
I'm back in.
So I show up and I'm like, all right, like, do you have a room? It's like, no, like, we're just doing it out of a cafeteria. I'm like, okay, how many kids you got? Like 50? Like 10? And he lied to me. You can ask Josh. He had 6. He had like 6 or 7. And that are registered, not even showed up. So I show up to this gym, and there's like, in this high school with like these like cafeteria tables everywhere. And there's 3 like little kids that showed up. And actually one of them is still with me. He's in 8th grade now, which is kind of cool. But I'm like, this is what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dude, this
again for scope, for reference, there's a wrestling school every 15 miles in New Jersey, and they're all pretty packed. Like,
you can go to Shore Thing at any day of the week, and there's 70 kids that show up.
70. And like, that is not like, that's a pretty big one for sure, but there's definitely 25 kids in every room. Definitely. Easy. And that's so yeah, go ahead. So I start helping this dude out, and I had nothing else going on Thursdays. So I didn't even have an excuse to like say no, because I would just be sitting in my aunt's house. So I did it. It's either this or I stare at 4 walls.
I do. So I did it. And then he's giving me these privates. I don't want to wrestle these kids because they're high school kids and they don't know how to wrestle. Yeah. Like, I'm teaching a senior in high school how to hit a penetration shot, and it's painful. And every time you roll up this mat, you have to put the cafeteria tables back to where they are.
Yeah.
So it became more work, and I was like, this isn't even worth the like $40 that I was charging to show. Like, I don't even want to go in, but I kept doing it because I had literally no excuse to not go.
Right.
So after it might have been a year. I would say a year and a half. Josh calls me. We started growing a little bit. COVID hit, so like it wasn't a crazy amount of kids that showed up. Like on Wednesdays there would be like 40 kids, but like every other day, because we were the only show in town that was open. Like everything was closed, but every other day was like 10. Okay. It wasn't crazy. So Fretwell comes into town. We go out to dinner, and Cliff's Cliff, but he's like, him and Josh are like acting weird, like together, like they're talking, but they're like kind of quiet after and like looking at me a little and like still like would have a conversation. I noticed like the vibes are off. Cliff leaves the next day, and Josh calls me. I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, is he firing me? Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, he doesn't have anyone else, so he can't fire me. So I answer, and he's like, hey, man, this is exactly what he said. Hey, man, I just got offered the head coaching job at Compound. I'm out in a month. Do you want the club? And I was like, what? And he's like, do you want the club? And in my head, I'm like, is he trying to see if I would like stab him in the back and try to take over? So I'm like, no, I don't want it. I don't want it at all. And I really didn't. I didn't want to deal with it. I was teaching, but I was going to try to get into the fire academy because I hated teaching. He goes, all right, call me back when you stop being a bitch. And he hangs up. And I'm driving back from this pool that I went to hang out with my friend. And I didn't even turn on music. I'm like, what? I'm like, all right. So I call him back. Are you being serious? He's like, yeah, I'm out, bro. Like, do you want the club or not? I don't know. And he just hangs up again. And I'm like, oh my God. So I call my mom and I'm like, Josh just offered me a club. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah. And she like, I forget what she said, but then my girlfriend right now is like, you should take it. This is your way out of teaching. And in New Jersey, like everyone works a second job. So like, I've never seen someone be a full-time coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right. So I called Josh back. Hey, I'm in. This is like an hour later. He goes, I knew you'd be in. You know, I knew you weren't a bitch, whatever, this, that, the other. Cool. Come in. You're going to start running all these practices. So he goes to Fargo with the kids and then come back. And the month is not a lot of time to like prepare for like being a business owner and to run a club and all that stuff. Like at the time, I'm still 25. Like I still don't really know like what's going on. So I had 3 kids when I first started off. One kid, he's a heavyweight at Cal Poly now. Okay.
Tinker?
Huh? No, his name's Nate Glass.
Okay.
Okay, tall kid. He's like 6'8". This other kid, Carter Tate, he wrestles at Cornell now. And then this girl, Selena Cook, she wrestles at Colorado Mesa now. I had 3 kids sign up. And they were all different weight classes, different sizes. Carter's a 33-pounder. Nate's a heavyweight. Selena's she's 145 or something. And I'm like, how the hell am I going to run this? I don't even know how to run like the billing, like to get money. And at the time, Josh was only charging $75 a month for 4 days a week. So I'm subleasing out of this like jiu-jitsu gym. And like, it wasn't even 1, it was 2. So like one day a week, I would have to go up here in Sparks, and the other day a week, I have to go all the way down to Reno, like the other way. And I'm like trying to run this. And after a while, I just started. Carter had one of the kids had a wrestling room in his garage. So, and I realized they can't like go with each other. So they would just like come in the garage, and I would just do privates with all 3. Like that was their practice. I'm wrestling for 3 hours. I'm like, dude, this is horrible. I'm losing so much money. I'm losing so much time. I'm still not good at teaching. It's only like my 2nd year. So I'm like, my principal's calling me and like, what are you doing? Like, you're falling behind on stuff. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So that's where it fell in my lap. Now I like going into year 3, last year we hit 91 kids. So like within a year we grew, 88 kids or whatever it is. And I have my own facility. It is my full-time job. But it was a process getting there, man. It's
you don't have to tell me. I remember it well. What was the one thing? What was the one thing that running a wrestling club surprised you with? Meaning, what was the hardest thing or most difficult thing for you to kind of get over? And maybe it's more specific to Reno. Maybe it's not. But there was a couple things that like I can remember going, well, I didn't think that was going to be so hard.
Trying to justify that I'm worth money. My time is worth money. Like I had a parent tell me one time, what are you going to pay your student loans off with that money? It's like, well, why does it matter what I charge? What I charge is what I charge. But 2, like I'm an All-American, like, and it doesn't matter if I make money off this or not. This is my time. So like trying to justify, like, because in Reno, they had this like free club before I was here. So before Josh was the first club that wasn't a nonprofit. So people like castrated, like they hated him. They're like, you're making money off teaching wrestling? Oh my God. And Josh, and like, I'm like that. It was just such a weird concept. Yeah, I'm making money off of it. To this day, I still fight it because there's really only there's 2 other clubs in town, and they're both nonprofits. And I came out and I just made myself an LLC. I'm like, hey, I'm a for-profit business. I make money off of this. I paid thousands of dollars to know what I know, to teach your kid. why do I need to that was hard. That was really hard, especially here.
And you're still fighting it.
Still fighting it to this day, where I'm charging $140 a month. I have myself in there who's an All-American. My buddy from Lockhaven just moved next door. We live in a duplex.
Mm-hmm.
He moved in. He had a couple life changes. He moved in, and he's a 3-time Division I NCAA qualifier from Lockhaven. And we're running this bit, and people are like, "You charge $140? Oh my God!" They charge $50. It's like, all right, go there then.
Right.
And after a while, like my aunt was like, "Hey, you got to put your foot down," like, because I tried to like be nice to everyone, and like she's like, "Hey, you just got to put your foot down and be like, yo, this is what I charge.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, there's other places in town I'll refer you to."
Yeah,
that's hard.
Yeah, that's a real conversation, and the more times you have them, the easier they get. It's just it's a very simple equation. That while it wasn't overwhelmingly it wasn't the case so much in New Jersey where we grew up, because Ernie Monaco started the Edge School of Wrestling in 1984, 86 or something like that. So he was really the person that had that conversation more than any of us. It is, I do club or camps and stuff around the country, and it's not as uncommon as I thought it was, right? In Iowa, in places like Oklahoma, and like in wrestling hotbeds, it is a conversation that has to happen way more than I thought it would in 2023. So is it wrestling's fault that we do a terrible job of asking for money?
I don't know. I don't know if that's it. I think it depends on where you are in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I think people fork money over to Siebel and Askren and all those dudes easily. They don't even think twice.
Yeah.
But we're a place like Reno, Nevada, where if people don't know Reno, it's just a valley of 2 towns. It's Reno and Sparks. Mm-hmm. There's like 200,000 people, 250,000 people. And wrestling is not big. Like, they don't wrestle here like all year round. There's a select few. So I don't think it's wrestling's fault. But what's weird to me is that people will gladly pay like $300 a month for 2 days a week in like gymnastics.
I guess.
Is it like wrestling's demographic? I don't know. Because I also think the wrestling demographic of the West compared to the East is different.
Okay. You think so too, Joel? You seem to be agreeing with that. Do you think that it is a regional thing?
I think it's definitely regional. I mean, I think it's also priorities too. Like, the same people who don't want to pay $100 or $150 for a wrestling club will happily go out and buy a pair of Yeezys for their kid that they'll throw away in 6 months because the kid grows out of it.
Prioritization.
I heard this at Fargo too. Passing, by the way, like, wasn't part of this conversation. It was a California coach. I don't remember who said it. Wrestling on the West is a poor man's sport. Wrestling on the East is a rich man's sport. And I thought about that, and I'm like, kinda.
It's tough. I can tell you right now that if you really want to be successful in this sport, it's a monetary commitment. If your kid is in it, my son's in it right now. He's in it. It's not cheap. We're going to friggin' Journeyman. That's a $2,500 trip. We're going. Good.
You understand that though. There's parents that don't understand what being number one in the country looks like.
What it takes. Right.
I got 3 phone calls this week about kids trying to get signed up, where parents told me 3 times just this week, "You guys do this all year round?" These are like high school parents that are trying to get their kid in. That's juniors. Like, they don't. You understand that. And to be good, your parents have to understand that.
Yeah.
Parents play such an important role in development and being good. Like, you have to understand where you want to be.
Sure.
Or where you want your kid to be.
How much of that do you think is on club owners and coaches to set expectations?
Well, that's
coaches. Sure.
Yeah. That's a culture thing too. Chase Pammy's huge on culture. I talk to him about that stuff all the time. You set the culture right when they're young, they understand it when they're older. You get a kid that comes in who's a 8th grade freshman, sophomore. Like, I want to be number 1 in the country.
Do you? Oh, you.
Yeah. Were you Nashawn Garrett?
Yeah.
Probably not. So it's very much so a culture thing. Very much so. That's Chase Pammy to the T.
Yeah. No, we spoke to Chase about that specifically. Yeah, the expectation from all parties involved have to match, right?
Yeah.
You can't have right now we're dealing with it, right? We're dealing with it because we are a pretty darn good high school wrestling team here in Poway.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good team. Well, guess what? It is really, really tough to tell a kid who just came a round away from placing his first time going to Fargo, you ain't gonna start this year, kid. You ain't gonna start.
Send them to Reno.
But do you see what I'm saying though? Like,
absolutely.
But this is the culture that we asked for, and it's certainly awesome. But how do I justify now I have a kid right now who did place in Fargo that is a junior. I don't see when he ever starts. It's so hard for me to say that, Joey.
So wild.
I love him. I love this kid. He works. He does everything right. He's probably going to cut his balls off to make weight this year because it's the only chance he's got of cracking the lineup in a team that I expect to be in the top 10 in the country.
Yeah. I think everywhere you go, you have a different set of problems.
Yeah. I'm not bitching. I guess I kind of am, right? But given my problems or yours, I'll take mine.
I'll take yours any day of the week too. Where I have to like sell parents on being like, hey, your kid wants to go wrestle in college. He needs to be going to these tournaments.
Yeah.
And I have to justify that. That's weird.
Yeah. It's because we're used to the other end of the spectrum. No. He doesn't have to wrestle 150 matches a year. Doesn't have to do it. Relax. Shake it out a little bit, mom, dad. All right. Hey, so I got a list of questions that I want to get to, and we're going to start asking these of everyone towards the end of the interview. And you can take your time thinking about them, but not too much time.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to fire off. I said fire. Joel and I have been speaking about what we should call these 6-7 questions. And the only thing we don't want to call them is rapid fire because it's just way too overused. And all right. So number 1, what wrestling shoe are you wearing right now?
Inflix, Nike Inflix.
Okay.
Black
what is black and silver?
Yep.
Nike Inflix. Okay. What's the best wrestling shoe of all time?
I like my Exos.
Really?
Yeah. I like my Exos a lot. They're really
one
comfy.
sole.
Yep. Really comfy. I like feeling the mat underneath me.
Okay. Best form of cardiovascular exercise?
Running. I'm old school. Go run.
Really?
Yep. Go run. Get your road work in. I don't think it's as much as like cardiovascular thing. It's like a mindset thing. Like I'm glad you make the distinction. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Okay.
Is there probably a better workout? Absolutely. But like if I go out and I run every night, like 3 miles, my mom used to wake me up every morning before school. It wasn't every morning, probably 3 times a week. Kind of crazy though. My mom was doing this like from like my 8th grade year to like my junior, senior year. And I'd run 3 miles with her every morning, like 3 times a week. And it wasn't,
I said, I don't hate that. I
No,
like
and
that.
it was the only time I really got to like talk to my mom during the day during like the season and stuff. So I looked forward to it. We weren't pushing the crazy pace, but every like when I was like going deep into matches, like I was like, yeah, I run every morning. I'm good here. I've been here. I live here. 5:15. I live in the third period.
There is something so valuable about building that type of discipline. It really doesn't have much to do with the wrestling or even the dude right now. We Tuesdays and Thursdays in this house, you get up 2 hours before you go to school and they sit and they do homework. Jack will cold plunge with me. He fucking hates it.
Yes.
He hates it. But he's building discipline and it's paying off, dude. It's paying off. The dude has all A's for the first time in his life ever.
Nice. That's awesome.
Dude, like it's like, whoa, this is so important. Okay, next. Is it more important or is it better to be strong, or is it more important or is it better to be flexible?
Oh my God. I'm not really strong. I'm pretty flexible though. I think it depends on what your style is. I think flexible. Look at Ghione.
Yeah.
Look at dudes like that. Like, I mean, you do see strong kids win, but like the people who really stick out to me are like the flexible ones that are like fighting off a shot on the line and they're in the full split and you're like, you're the guy in on the legs. Like, now what? I got 10 seconds.
How do I get all the way over there?
I wasn't ready for that. I think flexible. Sure.
Okay. I like that. Is it more important to be fast or strong? Or excuse me, fast or powerful?
Fast. I'm very big into being fast. If you're fast, you don't need to be strong.
Okay.
I go around you.
Okay. What about a better body type for wrestling? Long and lanky or short and squatty?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I'm short and squatty, so I'm biased to that. But like my buddy Alex Clucker, he has like the body of like McGregor, like 5'10" and kind of lanky, but not skinny. Right. Kind of filled out a little bit. Yeah. I get jealous a little bit. Like I get jealous.
Feeling a little jelly. That's cool.
We'll be like strapping, and he's like, he has like his hands locked around my leg where I can't even like touch him yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like he's hitting me where I can't even touch him yet. So like that, I get jealous of that sometimes.
Okay. All right. Last one. If you had a magic wand and you can change one thing about the sport of wrestling, what would it be?
I'm gonna get canceled because of this. So be ready.
Oh no.
Stop wrestling for your high school.
Wait, what do you mean?
I don't think high school wrestling is as conducive anymore. Let me phrase that.
Oh wow. Oh, this is good, Joey. I like this.
Let me rephrase that. If you're number one in the country, let's just say.
How about if you're in the top 20 in the country?
Sure, that works too. Say you're top 20 in the country. Let's just talk Jersey, okay?
All right.
I'm wrestling at Brick Memorial. We have a duel with Tom's River North. Okay, who few and far between has good kids. They do, but and I have to waste not going to club that night. I have to waste cutting weight and not doing my homework and not getting extra workouts in to wrestle a kid who has 2 left feet and is 2-20.
It seems like a fucking waste of time when you say it like that.
Then I could be just training for BC East.
Yeah.
Or Ironman or something along those lines. Now, I was just talking to my brother about this morning because I had a feeling this was going to come up. And we had a knockdown drag out. My brother's the head coach of Jackson Liberty right now in Jersey. And he's a high school coach. And I'm a club coach. And we see totally different like aspects of the sport. I see he's very much so like as a high school coach, you have to be stuck in like what's in front of you and what you're being told to what to do. You have to do what NJSIA says. You're going to these dual meets, you're going to these tournaments, you're going to states. For me, I look at wrestling as like endless possibilities. For me, I think you should just be training for national tournaments all
World
year.
championships. Absolutely.
Valiant prep. Valiant Prep, perfect. They don't
Mhm.
they don't like train for like little dual meets. Like, I think the P&L is great. I think the P&L is going to change the way wrestling is going to go. I think we're going to see more kids forego high school wrestling because they have these opportunities to wrestle,
High level competition,
all year round.
and that's it.
Yeah. So I think, man, people in Jersey are going to lose it. I think you don't have to wrestle for your high school. Like, I really don't. I don't see a point if you're that good.
I think, how about this? I'll take it a step further. I am pretty surprised. I can remember, and this is going back, but I can remember when Henry Cejudo didn't go to college and then just went to the OTC. I remember going, oh, that's going to be a trend. That's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Now, because there is this NIL thing has kind of thrown a bit of a hiccup into that, because the only way to make money right out of high school in wrestling is to go to college. I still think that is going to be a more viable option moving forward. And it might not be right away because I think it's going to take some time for this NIL stuff to kind of plateau and then sink a little bit. But man, I truly believe that is a very viable option for most people that are that high level.
Where do you draw the line there to say, okay, you're ready to not compete in high school anymore?
I think that depends on where you are in the country. I think you're okay. Let's take a state like what state has like 7 state champs? Georgia.
Georgia does. Georgia
has like 8 state champs. It's wild. Like, all right, I'm good, and I'm top 20 or teetering it. What's the point? Like, I'm in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, and I can run into 3 kids that are ranked in the country. Maybe it's worth it. Or we just get rid of like dual meets and stuff, and you just go to like national. Like, if your team's that good, like at Del Barton, that's in Del Barton this year. I don't know if you noticed at Fargo, had 2 kids in the Fargo finals wrestling on the stage at the same time.
Yeah,
Jaden James and Cross Weslowski were wrestling at the same time, same high school.
It's wild.
By the way, neither of them won Jersey States this year. Just want to leave that out there. Just saying.
A little bit of Jersey brag for sure.
So you have that aspect too, where it's like, like these kids are both in national finals and neither of them won a state title.
So they still need it, right?
They still need it. But like you got kids like let's say like Aiden Sinclair, that kid from Wisconsin. Wisconsin has 1 million state champs too.
Do they? I don't know.
They have a few. They have like 4 or 5. No point in wrestling for your high school, personally. That's what I think.
All right. Okay. Let us get moving here. Joey, you got anything before he goes? No? All right. Where do people find you, Joey? How do they get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you?
Silver State Wrestling Academy, 1185 California Ave, Sweet Eye. Reno, Nevada. No, I'm kidding. You guys can hit me up at Joey Ghione. I still have like a personal like Instagram. I don't have like a just coach's Instagram. So at Joey Ghione on Instagram, or Silver State Wrestling Academy on Instagram, or you can go to our website, silverstatewrestlingmd.com. It's a good way to find me, or just pop by the room. I'm always in the room. I'm always doing stuff, or I'm in my apartment just doing business stuff that I'm trying to figure out. So
I love it. Good catching up with you, brother, man. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, bud.